Welcome to Testimony Tuesday. I'm your host, Charles Gates Jr., and as my guest this week, we have Jim Schoffstall. Hello, Jim. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
This week on Testimony Tuesday, we have a testimony about forgiveness. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. Uh, this week, we have Jim Schoffstall as our guest again. Uh, I understand, Jim, that you have a testimony to share about forgiveness of ourselves and others.
Absolutely. This one, this testimony is something that really hits close to home for me, literally and figuratively. Uh, but I want to start off by saying, uh, when I was growing up, in my family growing up, it was really something. Like by the end of the day, our problems were almost worked out. Like we had this strong, you know, for the most part, when I was little growing up, it was something that was a strong family surrounding. Um, and what had happened through the years, my parents had struggled, um, and as I got to be closer to being a senior, it was to the point where you could see, you know, there were different times where they were really struggling. There were things that I was seeing, and at this point, my brother was out of the house. He's 5 years older than I am, so he had moved on. He was going and still loves the family. He was just moved on with his life, starting his own family,
Right.
and so it was me. It was me at the house during this time, and I was really trying to process a lot of things. Like, man, they're just, mom and dad aren't really, they're not really getting along too well, or at least what I was seeing, how I was processing it in my teenage mind. That's how I was processing it. The human teenager was just like, man, they don't seem to be getting along, but I got to get to school and I got to do the things I got to do, you know.
Right.
So during all of this, was coming up on graduation, they have this thing called class night, where if you have any sort of talent, or if you don't have talent, either way, if you have talent or not, you performed at this class night and you had fun doing it. It was your time to enjoy the people you have spent your life struggling with, and you're going through and you're picking out different songs and all this stuff, and some of it's really deep, and some of it's just a joke.
Yeah, I'm sure the class clowns love that time
Oh,
of the year.
absolutely. It's their time to shine. But I had picked out songs because at that time I was really, I sing now. That's something you know about me, and not
Yes.
necessarily everybody knows about me, but I sing.
Love his voice on songs.
I
I'm
appreciate
a
that,
fan.
man. I appreciate that. But I was just starting to really try to find my voice then. I was just trying to sing a little bit here and there, and I had songs I was going to sing, that I was singing on this class night. A lot of things I had prepared, for this class night. And you're like, Jim, you're really harping on this class night thing. I am, and here's why. As I was getting ready to leave to go to this class night, and I was walking out the door, literally walking out the door, and my mom stops me. Uh, now, now she works. She was working third shift. It was all. She was just really going through it. Like I was saying, my parents were really going through it at that time. Especially in my eyes, and my mom had let me know. She didn't know where I was going. Okay, for one, she didn't know. I'm prefacing this. She didn't know where I was going, and she was just wanting me to know what was on her heart. And she told me that they were going to get a divorce at this time. So again, teenage, going to class night. Jim looks at this like, man, I just had a lot of energy, and then I go and I'm leaving my house, and my mom kind of drops that bomb. She does, again. I don't blame her now. Teenage Jim did. Teenage Jim just wanted to just be like, why did you tell me? You didn't know I was going to class tonight, that I was going to perform in front of people, and now I'm doing it with an insanely heavy heart because I don't know what's going to happen next, you know?
Seeing the world through our lens without really stopping to see or question what the other person is seeing through theirs.
Yeah, that's the thing. You react on, and this is with anything huge in our lives. We react in emotion. Very rarely, and I'd love to meet the person that does, but very rarely do we stop and just think about what we're about to say, you know, when something very, very, you know, huge, something deep or heavy happens in our lives. And you just stop and think before you do that. A lot of times it's reacting out of emotion and it's just raw, you know.
Catches us off guard. It really throws us in for a loop. And I've watched some of the most influential people just react out of a way that
it doesn't even seem like them. It seems like a very out of body experience. You're not yourself at that time. You are completely vulnerable. And when this happened, you know, I did everything I was doing for class night, nailed the songs. I did well in the songs. I'll pat myself on the back. I don't care. But afterwards, I had one of my friends from the school, a dear friend. We went to Wendy's afterwards, and we sat on the curb and we just talked. And listen, I didn't tell this person I was going through anything, but they knew, and they said, "Let's go and let's sit in the curb and let's talk." And what I was going through in my life at that time was something I have never felt before. Something I didn't know how to process, something I didn't know how to put into words to tell anybody. You know, how do you not go through something, you know, you've never been through it before. How do you put that into words? You know, it's just like, I don't know how to describe this. I've never felt this, you know, and, but at the same time, you know, it was all kinds of different emotions, you know, but at the forefront, at the foundation, you know, I needed to forgive. Because at that time, it wasn't even about the divorce. It was about the fact that my mom stopped me before I was going to do something and told me this about it. And I needed to, one, be forthright and just be like, listen, you know, I got to go and forgive mom. I got to go and forgive mom and forgive myself because I was beating myself up. Because what's one of the things when you're in a family, you feel like you're that, you know, at that time in teenage Jim's eyes, you know, I felt like, well, that's because, you know what, I was the third wheel. I was that one in the house that was causing, you know, all the extra stuff. And, you know, if it was maybe just them two focusing on, you know, all these thoughts go through your head. And what you're doing is you are clenching two fists and you are striking yourself and your self-esteem and your emotions and just you are beating yourself up hard.
Oftentimes when things that happen that throw us, that cause us to spiral, oftentimes we do blame ourselves, and a lot of the things that happen to us in life that are completely out of our control, like that there's no way we could have.
That's the worst thing, when it's out of your control.
Yeah. It's that we just naturally, our human nature is just to, what did I do wrong to?
Just coil up in all your emotions and just,
It's either we blame ourselves or a lot of people blame God, thinking that he doesn't love them because he allowed something tragic to happen, or that really caused them to hurl down a path that they weren't expecting.
Yeah.
But we can't always foresee these things.
Yeah.
But I believe there's a testimony in the smallest of
absolutely
moments like that. Smallest and
absolutely.
the biggest.
And that's the thing. The smallest things feel huge, especially during that. The smallest things feel like the mountain out of a molehill thing really exists when it's just raw emotion.
Not that we're calling divorce itself small at all.
No.
That's not the context
No.
that we're referring to.
No. What I want my focus to be in this testimony is during all of this, all I was doing out of raw emotion was just in my head getting angry at a lot of people. Just blaming a lot of people, blaming dad, blaming my brother, blaming myself, blaming my mom, blaming other relatives that, oh, well, you could have helped out, you could have reached out, and just going through, again, out of my control. And here I am in this case, and this is what I meant by this, here I am in this situation making a mountain out of something I can't control, making something that was really honestly non-existent, and I created it in my mind, and I'm making that a mountain. I'm making that thing huge, and
I believe that that's a lesson we can all learn. We can all take that and apply that to our own lives. I know there are some areas where I'm tempted to really create this idea of the way people perceive me based on what I think they view me as and stuff.
Sure.
And I do that to battle that and give that to the Lord, because I'm doing what He called me to do.
And that's what I had to do. I had to give it to God. And that's what I was learning it slowly, because at that point in my life, I wasn't going to anybody for any advice. I didn't have somebody who was, in the Lord really being that ear I could talk to, or being somebody that I could have come to me and encourage me. And it took me, because of that, I feel like it took me closer. It brought me closer to God, but the journey was a little longer in that. But my journey included me having to forgive myself for beating myself to a pulp, just destroying, the self-esteem, any willpower, any kind of stuff like that, just beating myself up. And also thinking things that were just untrue, and just feeling things that were just not real about people that were completely innocent in the situation. And God can take that, and He can teach you things about forgiveness. He can teach you things about your life beyond that. That really, a lot of times we'll look at a situation and I'm sure you talk to a lot of people that go through things, and we wonder why we're going through them. And God has us going through things, I believe, because there's going to be somebody down the road. There's going to be somebody down the road in your life that God's going to use you, particularly, very specifically, in a situation that's a lot like yours. And they're asking they're at that point in their life, and they're asking that same thing, like, man, why am I going through this? And there you are, having years later gone through a journey with the Lord through this situation where God brought you, not that you've arrived anywhere, but He's given you this weapon, this spiritual weapon, to fight and help others fight this spiritual battle that they may be going through. And that's really what I believe. And through that, and the forgiveness had to happen for me to get there. For me to get there, the forgiveness had to happen. And I needed God during that, or else that forgiveness wouldn't happen.
Yeah, that's the central point and the heart of this this talk show right now is Revelation, chapter 12, verse 11 says that they, the body of Christ, overcame him, the devil, by the blood of the Lamb, Jesus, and by the word of their testimony. Amen. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. Mm-hmm. Your testimony encourages other people, and God appoints times and seasons where you cross someone's path and they need that in order to move on with their life. In order to have the strength to move forward, they need to know uh, what gave you the strength to move forward.
Right.
And that's a great time to share the love of Christ.
Amen.
And but yeah, it also encourages and strengthens us when we reflect on those
Absolutely.
things. That's the heart of Revelation 12:11
Yep.
is that that's our victory
Yep.
message.
Yep.
That's defeating the lies of the enemy, saying you will not make it,
Yep.
saying that you don't have what it takes to make it to fulfill your destiny.
And then all we need is that reminder. All we need is that reminder is to just be, again, in our word, or just to have that friend encouraging us. That person, even if it's a complete stranger, whoever God uses to encourage us and us to encourage others, to remind us who we are and that we can affect people with the word of our testimony.
Amen. That's why we need each other.
Absolutely.
To edify, strengthen one another.
Yep.
Apostle Paul couldn't stress that enough.
And in this story, forgiveness was a stepping stone to get there. It really was. And forgiveness is such a strong point, a strong challenge with a lot of people. And man, till this day, man, ain't nobody perfect that's going to say that they haven't had either a struggle with forgiveness. Man, it is a struggle every day. And I'm sure a lot of people out there know that struggle. But we're here to tell you, there's somebody always there. There's somebody that's going to help you get from A to B. And we need to sometimes forgive ourselves and look past ourselves and get over ourselves to really get that.
Sometimes harder. It's harder than it sounds.
Yeah.
Really, but
Oh yeah. This is just talk, but yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Amen.
So that's all we have for this week's Testimony Tuesday. I'm your host, Charles Gates Jr., with our guest, Jim Schoffstall. And stay tuned for next week. Not sure what testimony we have, but I know it'll bless you. So God bless, be blessed, stay blessed. In Jesus' name.